Chapter 8. Ms. Lillian Jean, would you wait up a minute, please? Cassie, you cracked, cried Stacy. Cassie, where are you? Get back here! Cassie! Stacy's words faded into the gray stillness of the January morning as I turned deaf ears to him and hurried after Lillian Jean. Thanks for waiting up, I said when I caught up with her. She stared down at me irritably. What do you want? Well, I said, walking beside her, I've been thinking about what happened in Strawberry last month. Yeah, commented Lillian Jean suspiciously. Well, to tell you the truth, I was real upset for a while there, but my papa told me to don't do no good sitting around here being mad. Then I seen how things was. I mean, I should have seen it all along. After all, I'm who I am, and you're who you are. Lillian Jean looked at me with astonishment that I could see mattered so clearly. Well, I'm glad you finally learned the way of things. Oh, I did, I piped readily. The way I see it here, let me take them books for you, Miss Lillian Jean. The way I see it, we all gotta do what we gotta do, and that's what I'm gonna do from now on. Just what I gotta. Good for you, Cassie, replied Lillian Jean enthusiastically. God'll bless you for it. You think so? Why, of course, she exclaimed. God wants all his children to do what's right. I'm so glad you think so, Miss Lillian Jean. When we reached the crossroads, I waved goodbye to Lillian Jean and waited for the others. Before they reached me, the little man exclaimed, Ow! I'm a-tellin' Mama, carrying that old dumb Lillian Jean's books. Cassie, what'd you do that for? Questioned Christopher John, his round face pained. Aw, shoot, laughed TJ. Old Cassie just learned she better do what's good for her if she don't want no more Mr. Sims' backhand. I clenched my fists behind me and narrowed my eyes in the Logan gaze, but managed to hold my tongue. Stacy stared at me strangely, then turned and said, We'd better get on to school. As I followed, Jeremy touched my arm timidly. Cassie, you didn't have to do that. That old Lillian Jean, she ain't worth it. I stared at Jeremy, trying to understand him, but he shied away from me and ran down the road after his sister. I'm gonna whip you good, too, said prideful little man, still fuming as we approached the school, 'cause I'm gonna sure tell it. Nah, you ain't, said Stacy. There was a shocked silence as all heads turned to him. This here's things between Cassie and Lillian Jean, and ain't nobody telling nobody nothing about this. He stared directly at TJ, caught his eyes, and repeated, Nobody. Aw, man, cried TJ, it ain't none of my business. Then after a moment's silence, he added, I got too many worries of my own to worry about Cassie, Uncle Tom, and Lillian Jean. My temper almost flew out of my mouth, but I pressed my lips tightly together, forcing it to stay inside. Them final examinations coming up in 2 weeks, man. Ain't no way I can afford to fail them things again, TJ continued. Then you won't, said Stacy. Shoot, that's what I thought about last year, but your mama makes up the hardest examinations she knows how. He paused, sighed, and ventured. Bet though if you kinda asked her about what kind of questions. TJ, don't you come talking to me about no more cheating, Stacy cried angrily. After all the trouble I got in last time, counting you got questions, you ask Mama yourself. But you say one more word to me about them tests, I'm gonna... All right, TJ smiled in feigned apology. It's just that I'm gonna have to figure something out. I got a solution, I said, unable to resist just one bit of friendly advice. What's that? Try studying? After Uncle Hammer left on New Year's Day, Papa and I had gone into the forest down the cow path into the misty hollow where the trees lay fallen. For a while we stood looking again at the destruction. Then, sitting on one of our fallen friends, we talked in quiet, respectful tones, observing the soft morning of the forest. When I explained the whole strawberry business to Papa, he said slowly, You know the Bible says you're supposed to forgive these things. Yes, sir, I agreed, waiting. Supposed to turn the other cheek. Yes, sir. Papa rubbed his mustache, looked up at the trees, standing like sentinels on the edge of the hollow, listening. But the way I see it, the Bible didn't mean for you to be no fool. Now one day, maybe I can forgive John Anderson for what he done to these trees, but I ain't gonna forget it. I figure forgiving is not letting something nag at you, rotting you out. Now if I hadn't done what I done, then I couldn't have forgiven myself, and that's the truth of it. I nodded gravely, and he looked down at me. You're a lot like me, Cassie girl, but you got yourself a bad temper like your Uncle Hammer. That temper can get you into trouble. Yes, sir. Now this thing between you and Lillian Jean, most folks would think you should go around doing what she tell you, and maybe you should. Papa? Cassie, there'll be a whole lot of things you ain't gonna want to do, but you'll have to do in this life just so you can survive. Now I don't like the idea of what Charlie Sims did to you no more than your Uncle Hammer, but I had to weigh the hurt of what happened to you to what could have happened if I went after him. If I'd have gone after Charlie Sims and given him a good thrashing like I felt like doing, the hurt to all of us would have been a whole lot more than the hurt you received, so I let it be. I don't like letting it be, but I can live with that decision. But there are other things, Cassie, that if I'd let be, they'd eat away at me and destroy me in the end, and it's the same with you, baby. There are things you can't back down on, things you gotta take a stand on, but it's up to you to decide what them things are. You have to demand respect in this world. Ain't nobody just gonna hand it to you. How you carry yourself, what you stand for, that's how you're gonna gain respect. But little one, ain't nobody's respect worth more than your own. You understand that? Yes, sir. Now, there ain't no sense in going around being mad. You clear your head so you can think sensibly. Then I want you to think real hard on whether or not Lillian Jean's worth taking a stand about. But keep in mind that Lillian Jean probably won't be the last white person to treat you this way." He turned toward me so that he looked at me full in the face, and the seriousness of his eyes startled me. He held up my chin with the wide flat of his hard hand. "This here's an important decision, Cassie. Very important. I want you to understand that. But I think you can handle it. Now you listen to me, and you listen good. This thing, if you make the wrong decision and Charlie Sims gets involved, and I get involved, there'll be trouble." "Big trouble?" I whispered. "Like the trees?" "Don't know," said Papa, "but it could be bad." I pondered his words. Then I promised. "Mr. Sims ain't never going to hear about Papa." Papa studied me. "I'll count on that, Cassie girl. I'll count real hard on that." For the month of January I was Lillian Jean's slave, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. She even took to waiting for me in the morning with Jeremy so I could carry her books. When friends of hers walked with us, she bragged about how her little colored friend, and almost hugged herself with pleasure when I called her Ms. Lillian Jean. When we were alone, she confided her secrets to me, the boy she had passionately loved for the past year, and the things she had done to attract his attention, with no success, I might add. The secrets of the girl she couldn't stand as well as though she could, and even a tidbit or two about her elder brother's romantic adventures. All I had to do was prime the gossip pump, was smile nicely and whisper, "Miss Lillian Jean," every now and then. I almost hated to see the source dry up. At the end of examination day, I shot out of Miss Crocker's class and hurried into the yard. I was eager to get to the crossroads to meet Lillian Jean. I had promised myself to first take care of the examinations, and then— "Little man, Claude, Christopher John, come on, y'all!" I cried. "There's Stacy." The four of us dashed across the yard, trailing Stacy and TJ to the road. When we caught up with them, it was obvious that the jovial mask TJ always wore had been stripped away. "She did it on purpose," TJ accused, a nasty scowl twisting his face. "Man, you was cheating," Stacy pointed out. "What'd you expect her to do? She could have given me a break. Weren't nothing but a couple bits of old paper. Didn't need 'em anyhow." "Well, what you have 'em for?" "Aw, man, leave me be. All y'all Logans think y'all so doggone much with y'all's new coats and books and shiny new Packards." He swirled around, glaring down at Christopher John, little man, and me. "I'm sick of y'all. Your mama and your papa, too." Then he hurried and fled angrily up the road. "TJ, hey man, where you going?" Stacy yelled after him. TJ didn't answer. The road swelled into a small hill, and he disappeared on the other side of it. When we reached the crossroads and saw no sign of him on the southern road leading home, Stacy asked Claude, "Where'd he go?" Claude looked shamefaced and rubbed one badly worn shoe against the other. "Down to that old store, I reckon." Stacy sighed. "Come on, then. We better get on home. He'll be all right by tomorrow." "Y'all go on," I said. "I gotta wait for Lillian Jean." "Cassie, I'll catch up with ya," I said before Stacy could lecture me. "Here, take my books, will ya?" He looked at me as if he should say something else, but deciding not to, he pushed the younger boys on and followed them. When Lillian Jean appeared, I sighed thankful that only Jeremy was with her. It could be today for sure. Jeremy, who seemed to be as disappointed in me as a little man, hurried on to catch Stacy. That was fine, too. I knew he would. I took Lillian Jean's books, and as we sauntered down the road, I only half listened to her. I was sweeping the road, looking for the deep wooded trail I had selected earlier in the week. When I saw it, I interrupted Lillian Jean apologetically. "Excuse me, Miss Lillian Jean, but I got a real nice surprise for you. Found it just the other day down in the woods." "For me?" questioned Lillian Jean. "Aw, you a sweet thing, Cassie. Where you say it is?" "Come on, I'll show you." I stepped into the dry gully and scrambled onto the bank. Lillian Jean hung back. "It's all right," I assured her. "It ain't far. You just gotta see it, Miss Lillian Jean." That did it. Grinning like a Cheshire cat, she crossed the gully and hopped onto the bank. Following up the overground trail into the deep forest, she asked, "You sure this is the way, little Cassie?" "Just a bit further, up ahead. Ah, here it is." We entered a small, dark clearing with hanging forest vines, totally hidden from the road. "Well, where's the surprise?" "Right here," I said, smashing Lillian Jean's books on the ground. "Why, what'd you do that for?" Lillian Jean asked, more startled than angry. "I got tired of carrying 'em," I said. "This what you brought me all the way down here for? Well, you just better get untired and pick 'em up again." Then, expecting that her will would do what would be done, with no more than that from her, she turned to leave the glade. "Make me," I said quietly. "What?" The shock on her face was almost comical. "I said make me." Her face paled, then red with anger, she stepped daintily across the clearing and struck me hard across the face. For the record, she had hit me first. I didn't plan on her hitting me again. I flailed on her, tackling her with such a force that we both fell. After the first shock of my actually laying hands on her, she fought as best she could, but she was no match for me. I was calm and knew just where to strike. I punched her in the stomach and the buttocks, twisted her hair, but not once did I touch her face. She, expending energy and angry, nasty name-calling, clawed at mine, managing to scratch twice. She tried to pull my hair, but couldn't, for I had purposely asked Big Ma to braid it into flat braids against my head. When I had pinned Lillian Jean securely beneath me, I yanked unmercifully on her long, loose hair and demanded an apology for all the names she called me and for the incident in Strawberry. At first she tried to be cute. "Ain't gonna apologize," she sassed. "You want to be bald, girl?" And she apologized. For herself and for her father. For her brothers and her mother. For Strawberry and Mississippi, and by the time I finished jerking at her head, I think she would have apologized for the whole world being round had I demanded it. But when I let go of her, and she had sped safely to the other side of the clearing with no trail in front of her, she threatened to tell her father. "You do that, Lillian Jean. You just do that, and I'm going to make sure all your fancy friends know how you keeps a secret. Bet you won't be learning no more secrets after that." "Cassie, you wouldn't do that. Not after I trusted you. You mutter one word of this to anybody, Lillian Jean," I said, attempting to narrow my eyes like Papa. "Just one person, and everybody at Jefferson Davis is going to know you crazy about all your other businesses. You know I write. And you know I know. Besides, if anybody ever did find out about this fight, you'd be laughed up clear to Jackson. You here going on 13 getting beat up by a 9-year-old. I was starting up the trail, feeling good about myself, when Lillian Jean asked bewildered, "But Cassie, why? You was such a nice little girl." I stared at her astonished. Then I turned and left the forest, not wanting to believe that Lillian Jean didn't even realize it had all been just a game.